My name is Chuck Fisher. I'm the Executive Director of Dovetail Learning, which is the nonprofit that's bringing Toolbox into the world. And this is my colleague, Mark Collin, founder of Toolbox.
Thank you, Charles. Okay, just a little to provide a context here. My background's in Eastern and Western contemplative and developmental sciences, and I was also a carpenter. And I got my first toolbox from a mentor, a Finn carpenter, when I was about 16. And so I've been working on these two things from carpentry, built my own house, and then psychology, became a psychologist. So those were two passions for me. And so at one point they came together when I was going for my clinical license, and I needed kid hours. So I had to go back into the schools to get those hours. I needed 300 hours, or 200 hours. I was going to stay for 2 months. And when I went there, it was pretty traumatic. It brought up all my trauma of being in school, because I was a different kind of learner. You know, I was kinesthetic, and I was angry. I got kicked out of my math class, and they sent me up to wood shop. And the wood shop teacher said, "Okay, Colin, what are you going to do here?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "What's that book behind you?" And he said, "Oh, it's a book on boat building." And so I looked at it, said, "Can I take it home?" He said, "Sure, what the heck, So I took it home. I came back the next day, said, I'd like to build this double ender, in the back of the shop. And I also had my toolbox by then. He said, "You're kidding me." I said, "No." I said, "Well," he said, "Go ahead. Yeah, there's a place in the back of the shop." And so here I get kicked out of my math class, but here I'm building a boat. Have anybody built a boat in here? I mean, talk about mathematics, right? I mean, there's some complicated math in that. And I could see a drawing of that and build it. But I thought it was stupid. So that I had a lot of trauma around that, and so where am I going with this? So then when I went back to the school to get my kid hours, I felt kind of traumatized again, and so I was going to stay for 3 months. I said, "Get me out of here," and I ended up staying for 9 years. Because I had to do that healing, and then working with the children. I worked in an outback school in Northern California. It was a logging town. And there was about 150 kids in the school, and it was K-8. And I fell in love with them, they fell in love with me, and I started to bring these ideas of what's Eastern and Western thought, these in a contemplative and a developmental way to the children. And so they were very patient with me and this work came from the children. It didn't come out of a think tank, didn't come out of it just came out of what was missing in their lives. And the second part, or really one of the most important parts, is their tremendous capacity that they had. Even though they were pretty highly traumatized in some ways, and I could tell you some stories about that, but they still had this part of them that was unbroken. Every child that was in that school had a part of them that was unbroken, and that's what this addresses and brings forward, is that agency, that ability to self-reflect in a non-judgmental way, the ability to self-manage, the ability to have empathy for themselves and then their empathy for others. Their ability to know the difference between right and wrong because they already know all of that. So when we use the word right in our curriculum, we always put it in quotes. Why? Because it's subjective and because they already know. So what tools could we use is a very different answer than, well, why didn't you do, all that. So it's what tools could we use, and that they came up with those 12 tools, and so we're going to go through that. That again, the discovery, just last piece, the discovery really is this innate capacity, this inherent capacity that's there regardless of their circumstances. That's already there. So it's a matter of bringing it, let me tell you about what you have inside you that you don't even know about yet. And then it starts to move.
So we call it the Toolbox Project, and the curricula itself is called Toolbox because everyone just calls it Toolbox. And it's a human development project. So what you're getting to become a part of now as you enter this stream with us is to be a facilitator of the children's human development from the inside out. Their human development, which is of course developmental and over their lifetime, but we enter a place where we give them access to what Mark just spoke to. Their strategies, skills, and competencies that are inside. And we go back to the origin of education, which is educere in Latin, which means to bring out what is within. To bring it out what is within. It's that inquiry in. It's always, we use these fan decks here with the 12 tools. These are little magic wands when teachers wear these around their necks, because the kids are always looking for what tool to use, and the principal can just bring it out, or the teacher, and say, well, which tool could you use? And that allows the child to then access their own resilient nature by selecting and being competent with whatever tool they need.
And sometimes we talk about the teacher going first, so it's the, well, what tool could I use right now? You know, that everybody's talking, or this is happening, or you could just, oh, okay, you know, and then you go and you model that, and they start to see that. So then, and then the practices, and remember, this came from the school, and I really have so much appreciation for teachers, because really, like many have said today, you really should be national treasures. What you're being asked to do now and manage is just extraordinary. And so this came from that, out of that regard, my high regard for teachers in the schools and what you're being asked to do. And so that it's pretty user-friendly that way. It's not another binder kind of thing. It's something you can actually just, it moves pretty naturally into what you're already doing. Some teachers say, oh, I just never thought about putting it in a little box. I do a lot of these, but I never thought about putting it in a little toolbox before. So it's simple in that way, but it's very accessible in it. But then it has a comprehensiveness too that builds as you go into each tool.
So we talk about an inquiry and bring out what is within. What we'd like to do is an inquiry with you right now on what matters most. And we'll just write some notes here. So as you consider the work that you do, the life that you're giving, the children that you're caring for, in your heart of hearts, what do you most want for children? And we'll just popcorn whatever comes to mind. What do you most want for children?
Children to be able to deal with most situations and have coping strategies.
Have coping strategies. Thank you. To be able to deal with most situations. Yes.
I was thinking kindness to others, showing kindness to others.
Kindness. Right. We want for children to be kind.
Kindness and what for others?
Showing kindness to others.
Showing kindness to others. Okay.
Kindness and caring.
Kindness and caring. Right. That piece that the kids were talking about on the stage. They want to have that kind of relationship with each other and their teacher. Yes.
I want them to feel worthy and capable.
Beautiful. Worthy and capable. Sometimes I like to think of them being confident in their competence, which is their capability. Yes?
Awareness of their role in the community.
Can you say that one more time?
Awareness of their role in the community.
Great. Awareness of their role in the community.
Say that again?
That they're not the center of the universe. They impact the people around them, and they can impact people negatively or positively. Yeah.
I think empathy goes in with that as well. Being able to empathize.
Empathy goes right there. You can lay it right beside that. To have empathy for others and understand what they're going through.
To feel a sense of service to others and why that's important.
To feel a sense of service to others
Empathy.
and why that's important. Did you
I
add
think
something?
it goes along with empathy and compassion. And
Sure, yeah. If you get your role in the community and you can empathize for others, then you naturally want to step into that service piece. Any others on the tip of your tongue?
Well, to feel a sense of peace.
To have a sense of peace, feel a sense of
Yeah.
peace.
I mean, it's such an uncertain world right now.
Yeah, a lot of stress, and we want them to know what peace is like.
Peace, not to.
Yeah, no. To know peace, to have an experience of it, and someone else.
Building healthy relationships.
We want them to build healthy relationships, To build healthy relationships. Yes.
Self-confidence, for them to have self-confidence in themselves, and to know that they can persevere through difficult situations.
Yes, they can have self-confidence and persevere. Know that they can persevere. And
What was
that's
the first thing you said?
self-confidence.
Self-confidence?
Yeah.
Great.
Mm. Beautiful.
Self-confidence and
Persevere.
persevere.
To know that they can persevere. So let me read back to you what you just wrote. You said that what you most want for children is that they know how to deal with most situations and cope, that they can feel a sense of peace, they know that they're kind and caring to others and can build healthy relationships, that they feel worthy and capable, aware of their place in the community, not the center of it, have self-confidence and perseverance, be able to empathize with others and give service to their community, whether that's the classroom community or something else.
And that's more feel sense of peace.
I got that one.
Oh, you did that and all the other ones? Build? Okay,
Yeah, I got
healthy-
those too.
Okay, great.
So this is what Toolbox is for. We want you to measure everything you learn now about Toolbox according to this list. Will these tools, as we describe them to you and help you understand how they work, will they help you to help children have this experience? And in my experience, they absolutely do. So I'm excited to share this with you. It's one of my favorite things to do is be able to share with others what Toolbox is. And there's a little gift I want you to think about. Most of you are here because you care about children and you want to know about a program that you can use to help children. The gift is start thinking about this as something you can use yourself, personally. These tools live inside of every adult. They live inside of me. And when I use them, they change my life. So just hold that lens as we go through our work. Mark talked earlier about trauma and the importance of trauma, the impact of trauma. You all familiar with ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and the impact, the research now that we know children who have multiple adverse childhood experiences lose the ability to self-regulate and their neurological connections aren't as strong. And yet, what we also know is that those can be repaired. And so Toolbox is a trauma-informed approach as it came out of work with children in trauma. And you can hold that lens as well as we go into the work itself.
You know, and we just came from Northern California where there was a big fire. And the fire was incredibly traumatic. Even if my house didn't burn to the ground, my friends did. So the whole community is traumatized. So you really have to think of trauma, and there's lots of new definitions about what trauma is, okay? So, and there's many adverse childhood experiences. You know, were you an extrovert? Were you an introvert? Did you have, you know, there's many things that happened that made us feel different and were not addressed along the way. So we really need to think kind of broadly about what this means. Trauma and adverse childhood experiences came out of a study from the Center for Disease Control and Kaiser Hospital and a woman, a pediatrician in San Francisco. And they started to see all these various things. And then, of course, now it's spread up in our area. It's, you know, this idea of ACEs and trauma-informed care. All the teachers in California are getting trained in this. I think so many. It's really, so it's a big topic. So,
my favorite trauma story came out of inner city Richmond, which is one of the most traumatized communities in Northern California. It's in the northern bay of San Francisco, in between railroad tracks and oil tanks and shipyard. And newcomers from around the world come there first. And we had just trained the school in Toolbox, and there was a shooter on a building nearby, and the school was locked down. And the teacher's in there freaking out, and one of the kids says to her teacher, "Let's use the breathing tool."
and our quiet safe place
And
tool.
our quiet safe place tool.
From the third grader, reminding the teacher. And then we got a phone call from the principal that said that when she went and interviewed that class, it was the least traumatized because they were able to all visualize and go to a very different place, even though there was a guy with an AK-47 So it's that kind of, in the moment, we're talking about, it was something about being able to handle, I can't remember what was it, awareness of the community, not at the center of the kindness, most situations. Oh, deal with most situations and cope. Deal with most situations and cope. So that's exactly what this does.
So these inner tools, strategies, and competencies, when a child has access to them, allows them to do all of that. So we'd like to introduce you to the work itself through the voices of children. And we think of this as both a prevention and intervention program. And here are the children and a scattering of teachers and administrators speaking about Toolbox.
Like, have you ever been so angry you can rip out your hair or something? Sometimes I feel like that.
If there wasn't a toolbox, people would be arguing, screaming, dancing around in class, and getting into fights and arguments and stuff. And you're squeezing really tight on your hands. You're ready. You have a face on. Your face is getting hot. When I get really sad, upset, when you need some help.
I use them when I get mad so I don't go off the handle.
We had to use it a whole bunch of times to stand up against a bully.
Yeah.
At school, before I had the toolbox, I couldn't go to a safe place when I was frightened. I couldn't go like this.
It gives them sort of a sign pointing to, this is what's inside you, this is what you have. These are strategies and these are ideas and concepts that you already possess.
It's a very powerful program that provides a common language for kids, parents, staff. It's beyond a program, it's like a way of life. It's so natural and it comes so freely to all ages, and it works.
It helps me have fun with things, meet new people, have friends, keep control of what I'm doing, let things go, figure out what I'm doing, and control my actions.
With Toolbox, there may not be as many fights, or kids might think more before they act.
When people bother me, I think, oh wait, Toolbox. I can take breaths, or we can stop and talk and I can listen to what they have to say.
You put your eyes to their eyes and your ears to their ears and your heart to their heart, and you talk to them and communicate.
So the ears and eyes is doing their job. They listen and the eyes look, but the heart is taking all that information. And when it comes to your heart, then the brain knows what to do.
I just sit there and think about what happened really, and then see if it was my fault, if any of it was my fault. And if it was, then I would go talk to that person and say that, okay, I'm sorry about this. And then they would sometimes not forgive me, they'll think about it, or they would forgive me right away. She actually cares, and she actually cares about me. Maybe she also cares about herself. And if she cares about me, then we're both balanced.
So there's certain situations that it brings your courage, because you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe and trust that you can do it. You can't just say, I can't do this. And that means you're losing your courage. You're not doing it. And that brings courage when you go, I can do this. I might be struggling, but I can do this.
It's really important to know that you have these tools yourself. So I think it may be something that I could use as well as the students.
I've noticed that grown-ups, they didn't have Toolbox. They didn't have this kind of thing. And so I end up saying, oh, Mom, just use your breathing tool. Breathe in and out. Okay, let's talk about this.
Because sometimes grown-ups don't use their tools at all. And it just really throws me, because I've learned Toolbox so much. It's just, wow. We like breathe, talk together. Even my auntie will do it, my mom, my dad, my grandma. We'll have a family meeting.
It's interesting to me that you really are through Toolbox creating the education of the heart. I have to know how to be in charge of my own well-being and my own essential essence and authentic self, because I know how to come home to my own nature, which no one can really take away from me. And that is the power of Toolbox.
It's like your own school inside of you. If you can remember all these, you're good.
You really need to have a toolbox. If you don't, things are gonna get way out of control. There's gonna be like bullies everywhere, and then
Arguments popping up all over the school.
yeah,
That wouldn't be good.
yeah, that wouldn't. That just wouldn't be good.
Actually, I use all the tools to help me be a better person. Because they do help you to be a better person.
Since I have seen what Toolbox really means, it has really changed my life. It's almost like a superpower to master all of these.
You can't like Toolbox. You love it.
I need the Toolbox mostly like until I die. Because it's that important to me.
Toolbox helps me understand what's going on around me, and it helps me face some of my fears.
Together, we're building children's capacity for learning and world citizenship through a common language based on personal and social awareness, self-mastery, non-violence, and kindness or empathy for others.
I could do it. It's sort of hard, but I could do it. If Caveman had found it, then it would have been a great, great, great benefit.
From the mouth of babes, huh? So what did you notice as you heard those kids speaking in that way? What did you notice? There's an excitement they have about it. It's like it empowers them, right? I mean, that's what Mark and Zoe were talking about, empowering children. What else did you notice in their speaking or their voicing?
And a sense of hope. And it's interesting when they talked about their parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Giving their parents tools.
And adults, they didn't have Toolbox, and I had these. She's thinking about it as she's telling you the story, and she goes, "Wow,
How is that possible?
How's that paired? I have all this now, and we have actually her in high school now, and we filmed her and some of these other kids, and it's like, oh my God."
Mark, use your.
I'm sorry.
So
Yeah.
people in back.
Yeah.
can-
Oh,
so
okay.
it's interesting. That's the one place where audiences always laugh, because we didn't get the tools, right? I wasn't taught Toolbox when I was in kindergarten or elementary school. In fact, I had the opposite kind of experience. So
Yeah, anything else? I really appreciate that you noticed from that. Yeah.
The little boy who he had a red mark in
Yes.
his mouth.
Yep.
It really felt like it changed him in a way,
Yeah.
using those tools, that he had a lot of anger and a lot of issues.
ADHD,
his emotions.
ADHD, and he had
and
tics.
that really changed him and his relationships with people. and his coping with
That's
that.
right. And I see him still. He's in a little store near our office, and now he's 22, and he's just one of the most present of the checkers as he's thinking about what he's going to do next and how he's going to change the world. It's just extraordinary that way. I get to see him about every couple of weeks over all these years, and it's extraordinary. Yeah.
You also felt like they felt almost honored or lucky to have been given this.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And we have 1,000 hours of this stuff. And I guarantee you, there's a feeling of gratitude that they don't even know the word gratitude, but there's a way, even though it's kind of hard, I can do it. Just they're holding the complexity, a la Goldman and Senge and all those. Hold the complexity, and yet they have and yet they can admit that it's hard, but I can do it.
They almost couldn't imagine school without it.
What's that?
They almost couldn't imagine their school without it.
That's right.
They had a vision that if they didn't have it, that it would just be this
And
arguments.
yep, and they have friends. They have brownie troops that they go to, and I got the brownie leader calling me going, where do these 4 girls come from? Because they're now leaders in the brownie troop, and they have something that none of these other girls have. Can you help me out? So the stories like that keep coming over and over. We're kind of a small nonprofit, so we're just starting. We're coming out of the trenches, and we're coming up into the world now. And just the other thing I wanted to say, Chuck, was that it's now being translated into 3 or 4 languages, and it's all word of mouth. We haven't advertised, haven't done a TED Talk. We didn't do, I'm not known, I'm not, And so what's happening, because it came out of the trenches, it's now, but what happens, these are really what they are they're cross-cultural archetypal patterns. And so and then moms in Jordan or in Johannesburg or in Dubai, they notice that when they look at our website and they call us up and they go, how can we get it over here to our kids? So it's moving cross-culturally and globally on its own that way because of the Human Development Project and the patterning that's quite old. So it's, yeah.
So what we see that's happened here is we've found this way to rekindle children's innate capacity for their own wholeness, to direct them back to what they already know inside, and a way to help them manage their own solutions, which is what one of you put up here. We want them to be able to have the capacity to manage themselves. And that is a resilience capacity, inherent capacity inside children. So I'm going to show you 2 brief clips, one from an early elementary and one from a student of Mark's who is now in high school, reflecting on the essence of what they got from Toolbox. And consider what must have occurred for them to get this.
And the older student, I hadn't seen these students in 8 years, and someone kept asking me, well, how does it stick? Do they do that? And so you'll see her, and hopefully we'll have time to show the longitudinal film at the end, so you'll see that twice. But just wanted to let you know that I hadn't seen her in 8 years, sat her down, and shot this.
I dug down really deep till I was in 3rd grade. That's what I feel like. And at 3rd grade, I feel like the toolbox, it has opened up what I have found the treasure that I've been digging for.
There's nothing else like it in the world. It's what gives you the tools to find and strive for that happiness. That ultimate thing that we all strive for, and it's just right here. It's in here. It's inside us. It's not out there. I really appreciate it.
What is it that they got? What's the change that you saw in those kids who have that confidence and that excitement about having that competence, knowing their own competence? What we see is that it's a move from external locus of control, where they're looking for all the answers out here, to this internal locus of control. They have found themselves. And from in here, they can navigate anything because they have their own compass. As Angelus Arian said, they have come home, and you can never take that away from them. So this is the movement that we see children experiencing. And we want to just give you a couple of conceptual ways of looking at how this works. It starts within, right here. Go ahead and take a big deep breath with me. Feel the breath inside your body. That movement into the somatic body sense is the first movement. It begins within. They learn how to practice that breath and how to follow it inside. And when they go inside, it allows them to self-reflect. So as soon as they, I'm sorry, I got out of order. They go inside and it allows them to be more aware, and then they can be aware of what they're experiencing inside themselves, what they're experiencing in the room or from others, and that allows them to then have the metacognition of the self-reflection. Inside to outside, that moves them into the ability to then self-manage. If I know what's happening and I realize how I'm reacting, then I can use my breathing tool or my words tool or my apology and forgiveness tool, and I can make a difference in the world. I can self-manage myself. I'm sorry, I keep hitting the wrong button. We'll try this one more time. Inside, outside.
And by the way, that ability to self-reflect in a non-judgmental way. Because the younger we get them, you know, they just want to go quickly. They don't have that self-critic, that inner critic. So that ability, it's just astonishing that their ability to self-reflect and get it and make the shift and code switch and just move with it. Why? Not because it's coming from us necessarily, it's because it's useful. They feel empowered and they get it and they're grateful that piece coming. And of course the number one factor in resilience is you, the caring adult. So that's the critical piece, and it's been mentioned several times today. So
this internal movement, inside awareness, reflection, self-management. I now have myself, which allows me to see you differently. I'm no longer in my reactive pattern and my assumptions and my judgments. I'm okay here, and then I can really look out there and go, oh, what must be going on for my friend? And then that allows me to have more competence.
And move from proactivity versus reactivity. And that's what you also see is their ability to step back, take that breath, go into a quiet, safe place, take some time if they need it, whatever. These all build into that ability to get that space in between and have that 3 to 5 seconds of emotional intelligence, essentially, to that.
So we call this a from self to other movement, the self-other axis. And this is an image of Goleman and Senge's work where they describe the triple focus. Dan Goleman wrote Emotional Intelligence. Peter Senge is a business professional who's studied what helps businesses succeed. He works at MIT. They put these together. And this is their guidance to what schools need to do with children, to teach children about self, to teach children about what's going on with others, and to teach them how to work with the whole system or the community that they live in, which is what one of you wrote down here, you know, the ability to see themselves.
And this is their book called Triple Focus. It's very small, but it's really good, and it's all about Toolbox. Because they go into the how and the what, the what and the why, and Toolbox really is the how. And the what and the why is all obvious, been talked about, but then this is really the how it just manifests even more than they even know about yet, actually, Goleman and Senge.
So we're going to give you an overview of the 12 tools. We'll have to do it in an abbreviated manner. We usually do a 6-hour workshop with a whole school to let everyone in the school, from the bus driver to the teachers, aides, principals, folks on the play yard. Everyone has this common language that then levels the playing field. It's like everyone has the language.
And not only is it a common language, it's a common strategy, common principles, common practices, competencies, and methods. Everybody is having that together, so it raises the bar quite quickly. Our first study we did with West Ed in Oakland, it showed measurable changes in 14 weeks.
Significant difference intrapersonally, interpersonally, in the affective or emotional realm, and with school climate.
Yeah.
So we talk about 2 kinds of toolboxes. There's the toolboxes in the world, and the kids can learn about those because they know a carpenter uses a toolbox or a plumber. And then we tell them that, oh, well, guess what? You have a toolbox inside you that you don't even know about yet. So let's explore that together. And that might be how you would approach it at the very youngest ages. And in the older grades, 6th grade and above, it's laying this out and really talking with them. What do you think this is? Who uses breathing tool? Who uses these things? And get them to describe and explain it, because they have it inside. It's not about us so much telling them about the tools. It's about them telling each other and telling us through their own personal experience. In the early grades, as Mark held up before, we give kids toolboxes. A teacher can get a shrink-wrapped pack of these so that every kid in grade K through 3 or pre-K can create their own tangible concrete, and they put
cut them out,
each
and they
tool
each
in.
can put them in their toolbox like this. So it becomes very concrete, and it becomes their own. And and the story I was telling, I don't think it was in here, but last time that, right, I keep forgetting, yeah. Where is it? It's underneath here, okay. Yeah, I was saying this morning that my daughter was having a party at the house, and I wasn't there, and she had some people over, and a guy came into the party and said, "Hey," looked at the refrigerator and saw a picture of me and my daughter and said, "Hey, who's that?" You know, and my daughter says, "Oh, that's my dad." And she goes, "Well, that was my toolbox teacher 10 years later." And she goes, my daughter's at toolbox, okay. Yeah, okay. He says, I want to tell you something else. There's one thing I still take with me. Wherever I go, I've moved 3 or 4 times, gone to this and done this, I take my toolbox. I still have it. It's the one thing he said he takes with him. So that made me cry. So this idea that does it stick? Yeah, it is actually. Turns out, that when I said something about the interview, and hopefully I'll have just a few minutes to show you that longitudinal piece, just a little bit of it, that we could use every single interview once we looked up these kids, and then we'll show you little pieces of that.
So we have about 10 minutes to give you an overview of what the tools are. And so we're going to do that from this chart mostly, because we want you to get a sense of each tool. We'll go a little bit further into the breathing tools so you can experience that. And just want to share that there are 12 of the tools. Every tool has an icon. So like the breathing tool has a tape measure as an icon. It's a carpentry-based icon that helps them think about and remember, especially the younger kids who can't write yet, what the tool is. Every tool has a tagline. I calm myself and check in. And every tool has an embodied hand gesture. A hand gesture so that the teacher can communicate that tool to the kids. So that there's the name, which distinguishes the tool when it's being used and not. Words and hand gesture. So, want to teach the breathing tool?
Sure. Just real quickly, if you just take one hand and put it on your tummy right here, and then maybe one hand on your heart, right over like that, or either way, whatever you want to do, and then just close your eyes for a second. And this is the breathing tool, we call it, and about the upper grades we even call it breathing practice. And just take a breath of fresh air in through your nose or your mouth, and see if you can fill that little balloon in your belly. We'll pretend you imagine a balloon inside your belly, and through the diaphragm, and just see if you can bring a little air in there, not too forcefully, and then simply let that old air out. So we're bringing in the fresh air and letting the old air out. And maybe if you have any tension in your shoulders or any checklists of things coming in, you can just let that go like little clouds, and just breathing in and breathing out, easy and relaxed.
Bringing all of your attention to the sensation of the breath as it rises and falls inside your body.
So we're breathing in and breathing out. And just notice what you notice, the sensation of that. And then when you're ready, just kind of slowly bring your attention back into the room and just notice what you notice about the room and about what that experience was.
So can we name that? What are you experiencing right now after going in and taking just a few breaths?
Calm, yeah.
And the key is your mind, you focus
Right. So when you're calming and you're more clear because you're not in your thinking mind, you're moving into the body. Yeah. Anything else? What'd you notice about the room? I don't know if you noticed anything different, maybe, but what's that?
Sense of stillness.
There's a stillness, right, right. So so there's an inner piece that happens, there's an outer piece that happens. And then of course the children experience that, and they did it themselves. It's an experience they're having, not an idea, you said. So again, so we say, after that, sometimes we say, welcome to Toolbox. And that's the beginning. We call that the gateway tool, or one of the gateway tools.
And I would just want to invite you into how profound it is. Imagine yourself in kindergarten, learning how to access your breath whenever you need it to self-regulate, and to have that built over time through practice and teachers' encouragement through all of the grade levels, so that you can get up to the point where you're learning how to use the breathing tool and the quiet safe place together as test preparation, and you can just bring yourself in and whole, show what you know, and you've got it. So that something happens in your life, somewhere in your life, you can bring yourself back to center. The breathing tool takes us from this mental channel, what you said. I'm not thinking. Well, what happens when we think? When do we get stressed out? We have to be thinking about something, right? Thinking about something that happened that we're upset about, or imagining that something's going to happen that we're going to be upset about, even though it might not or ever happen. It's all in our imagination and in the thinking channel. So the breathing tool is taking us from the thinking channel through the tip of the nose down into the kinesthetic, somatic body channel. And science shows us, and if we were in a 6-hour workshop, we'd show you the science behind this, that when we go into the breath and we feel it, it's hardwired that we self-regulate. The breathing tool.
And then again, this is a poster for the upper grades. Just to take note, there's a whole thing we do that would be like through, say, 3 or 4 through 6 or 8, and it's called Tools for the Journey. So we go into build another context for hopes and dreams that was mentioned earlier, and sometimes we left the tool out, so we call it Tools for the Journey, so we have them get in touch with their own narrative, and we call it breathing practice. It could be, you can call it whatever you want, but so they're not cutting out little toolboxes in the beginning. Oh, we don't do what the little kids do, that kind of stuff. So we have a way of differentiating that and kind of hooking them in,
Okay.
Yes.
We've got 12 tools.
11 minutes.
Less than 11 minutes, 11 minutes.
All right.
We're just going to do just like a touch base here.
Yeah. Boom, boom.
Quiet safe place. Quiet safe place is remembering your quiet safe place. It's accessing a memory of when you've ever felt quiet and safe. It is that peacefulness that you talked about. When I think about my quiet safe place, I might think about a mountaintop, and then I practice that in class, and the teacher brings me into the room, and I put my hands on my desk and my head on my hands, and I think about my quiet safe place, and I'm building that muscle of memory that brings me to that place where my inner peace always resides, in here.
And it's also quiet and safe place. So then they make the distinctions about who they feel safe with and who they don't feel safe with. And since you're the caring adult asking and making that inquiry, that becomes something that they can now understand. Who do I feel safe and quiet with? Who do I not feel that way? And again, it's a feeling and it's an experience that they have. And you're honoring that. One of the things sometimes teachers will do, put placards, quiet safe place on like these, cut them out, put them on their desk. Student comes in Monday morning, especially in some of the communities we're in, after a long weekend, they can pick this up, put it on their desk, because they're not ready to be in yet. And as soon as they're ready, they can pick it up and put it back on your desk. Nothing's asked, nothing's said, but everybody honors it. They're just not ready to participate yet.
You can tell there's a lot to these tools.
I know,
and we err on the side of wanting to go into it for you, so you really can get it.
That's comprehensive.
When I take a breath, I come in here, and then I come into my peaceful place, my quiet, safe place, then I can listen with my heart, because I'm listening with my eyes, I'm listening with my ears, but listening with the heart is different. The hand gesture comes from carpentry. Carpenter taps the wall, and the hand gesture is one hand on the heart, one hand behind the ear, and I'm listening in what's behind the wall. And in the human relation domain, it's what's going on for my friend. What's going on for my mom or dad when they come home at night and they don't have any patience. I can listen in with my heart, and immediately I move to empathy. Listening with the heart takes me to empathy, where I can understand more because I'm thinking and inquiring about what must be going on.
And the tool for, this is a measured breath. It's a tape measure, it's a measured breath. So this is the hand signal. Or it could go like this, depending if the kids are sitting really close to each other and they go like that. No, you can go like this. So that's it. And the hand gesture for this quiet, safe place is this. Just, if you saw her, said, when I feel frightened, I can go to my quiet. Remember the girl? She said she did that. And that was a...
So in empathy, it's the level, and the hand gesture is this. Empathy for self, empathy for other. Self and other. You saw one of the girls using this tool. Well, if she cares about me and I care about her, then we're balanced. The empathy tool.
We also do a caring circle with empathy, that we do caring circle, and we have kids put there who they're concerned about, or anybody they want to put in our caring circle in the classroom. Takes not very long in the morning. Do it Monday and Friday, and they on little stickies, and sometimes they do it themselves, and that's another way of teaching empathy, by creating a caring circle. And then sometimes we have an appreciation circle. Sometimes we have a gratitude circle. So that's another. We spent a lot of time on this. It's very comprehensive. It's not just try these two things. It's very
Some people miss it. They just look at it. It's like, oh, 12 tools. But it's really profound, and it transforms children. It transforms teachers and their parents, because the kids take it home and they teach their parents the tools.
I did this with just a quick lunch with a guy from the Ojai Foundation and Council. And he said, oh, yeah, that's great. And then a year later, he came up to me and he said, God, I'm so sorry. I had no questions last time. Now I have 1,000 questions. Because he just didn't see it. And he's an expert in the field.
So we go from the first 4, which are the gateway tools. That's the practice of those, and becoming into awareness of what I have inside and how I can take care of myself. Personal space tool is about personal space. Kids don't have a distinction of understanding that they own, that the space around them is theirs, and that it impacts them. And if I have my space, then you can have your space. The hand gesture is just putting 2 hands out like this to define the space. And once they have that, once they've had an experience of that, then they're aware of it, and they can move and adjust, and they can ask for personal space when they need it. And they can know if personal space is safe or not, who is okay to let into my personal space or not.
And when I'm listening, I have empathy. I can sense what's going on there intuitively. So it has all those functions start to come alive. You can see how each tool builds on itself as it goes. It's developmental that way.
Words?
Sure. Words, using our words tool, this is the hand gesture for that. And I would also say I have a right to my space, and so do you. So there's always the self-other access again, okay? Using our words, I ask for what I want and need. I use the right words at the right time for the right reasons in the right way for the older grades, and always putting right in quotes. Again, we do that. And using our words.
It's an exploration of the impact of words.
Right.
When hurtful words are used, how does that impact my relationship versus kindness or
huge conversation that gets to happen. Yeah, how was that? Using your words, and how did that go? And da-da-da-da.
So then children have voice, like you saw in the video. I can then ask for what I want and need.
And we can talk about it, and I can, use that a lot.
Garbage can is the kid's favorite. Throwing little things away. So the hand gesture is 1 hand on the hip, and then I can just throw it away. Somebody says something mean to me on the playground. It's not about me. I can throw it away.
Little garbage can, bigger garbage can, and then a young student came in, 3rd grader, and said, oh man, last night my dad could have used a dumpster. So they love it. And then recycling and composting. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with garbage, and so anyway, it goes much deeper than that, and they know how to do it.
I have a teacher who called me one day and said, I have to tell you about this girl. I've been working with her all year on Toolbox, and she's so hard on herself. She came in this morning like this, and she just had to share. And I said, what is it? What is it? She said, Miss Alyssa, last night I was being mean to myself with my own words, and I threw my mean words in my garbage can. Think how profound that is. So words is the words internally that we use, so that we explore that, as well as words externally, and then how do we use that to take care of ourselves.
And so we're going to move really fast now. Taking time tool is in there. Just I use time wisely. I take time in and time away. So time in, obviously the other tools help with that, and take some time removing myself from a situation when I'm not being, and it's just very, very helpful for them. They like that a lot.
Please and thank you are the magic words. When we actually use those words, they make a difference. And we explore that. Well, what's the impact of using it or not using it? And then at deeper level, it's about gratitude. It's about appreciation. And the tagline is, I treat others with kindness and appreciation.
And this is the key that opens. So it's
Opens
key
the
that
lock to the
opens-
relationship.
Right, opens that door. Apology and forgiveness. This is the hand gesture, is two hands together and making repair. And the tagline is, I admit my mistakes and I work to forgive yours. Very important. Again, the language here is very important. So there's a willingness on my part to work to forgive yours, because you just, yeah. And we talk about forgiving, you don't have to forget to forgive. So those empowering pieces and making those distinctions for them.
Patience tools, one of my favorite, strong enough to wait. I'm strong enough to wait. I used to be really impatient in checkout lines. Then I started working with Mark, and I was in a checkout line one day and I realized I was getting upset, like people are in my line, and I said to myself, I'm strong enough to wait. It's changed my experience.
And literally I had 11 tools. I wasn't planning on doing, I didn't know how many tools. I was just starting with these kids in kindergarten one day, and I ended up just over these 9 years just going like this. And so about 3 or 4 years into it, we had 11 tools. Second grader, third grader, Taryn, what's up? She said, I think we need one more tool. I said, what is it? I said, courage. I think, oh yeah, I got to be brave. You know, you got to do this out in these monsters out there, and heffalumps and jaguars. And she said, I said, I didn't say that. And I said, well, can you tell me more? And she says, well, it takes a lot of courage. She says, when I go home at night, my brother and my dad tease me when I try to use my tools with them. It takes a lot of courage to use your tools when others are not using theirs. Whew.
Courage.
Got goosebumps just telling you that story. Why didn't I think of that? You know, it's like so beautiful. It came from them. And we say, I have the courage to do the right thing. So that's the affirmation. I have the courage to do the right thing, because I know what that is.
Courage comes from the root word cor in Latin, means heart. So courage is teaching children how to follow their heart, how to stand up in the world for a friend, how to make a difference, as our keynotes have talked about, how to make the world a better place. Martin Luther King Jr. followed his heart and changed the world.
And again, we have book sets, K1, 2, 3. We have really great literature. We really spent some time getting good stuff, you know. And we also have puppet sets.
Book sets go all the way through 6th grade.
6th grade, really good book sets. Oh, and the puppets, and we have journals for the upper grades, and
curricula.
So it's curricula, that goes that way.
Lots to go to it.
So
this is a brief broad brush. Thanks for hanging in there with us while we went fast at the end.
We still have a few minutes.
And we want to take a couple of questions. Right. Couple of questions. What are you wondering about this work?
And you can go on our website and see the longitudinal film.
How well does it work with the older grades, so that haven't had the exposure from the early, like grade 3, etc.? How about introducing it into...
Some of the best work I've seen is done in the older grades. We went into all of the Berkeley, California elementary schools, and the 3 middle schools took it. And one of those middle schools, you know, the kids had never had it. They just took it so deep, and those kids started doing, you know, plays on Toolbox and using it in their advisory to discuss, well, why do these matter? How do they help me? Older kids, if you're authentic with them and you really talk the talk, they like get how it is, and they'll push back too. You know, of course, those middle school kids, you know, they'll push back hard, you know, and say, I don't need a breathing tool. I can breathe in my sleep. But then it's all in the inquiry.
Yeah, and if you really ask them what their hopes and dreams are, and if they know what their narrative is, and they're writing that and working on that, then there's a context for it. Do you think any of these would be helpful when you're trying to get along with people or do this or get a job or bop, 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 bop? Do you think that might be? And we also use the metaphor of the peaceful warrior called practices of a peaceful warrior. So it really could be breathing practice. And what is a warrior? Well, what is a peaceful warrior? What's the opposite of a peaceful warrior? You know, so we get into definitions, and then we get into having them make agreements with each other, and their rights and responsibilities, and we get into a much more cognitive kind of meta conversation.
I would say one thing about the older grades. The older grades need teachers who can really be authentic. The younger grades, it seems very natural. I mean, they can do Toolbox without even thinking about it. But the older grade teachers have a different mindset sometimes, and they haven't had the training in this area so much as the younger age teachers, and that can make a difference in the evolution of the implementation.
And we have chance.
Other questions? Any question that's burning on your mind, like, wow, what is this? How does this work? And what's?
You can also show the upper graders that longitudinal film, and that'll blow their mind.
We have tons of films. When schools get the work, they get access to our website portal, which has deeper films about all the tools.
Has chance and
yes, question.
Stuff,
So when you're presenting this to the kids, how do you frame it? Like, do you say these are your tools for when you have a conflict, or these are the tools you might use when you're having negative feelings? Like,
what grade level? Give me a grade level first.
I'm middle school.
Okay. Okay. Well, but it's general. It's hard to say what I would do with a 7th grader, which I would do with a kindergartner. I mean, I really mean that. I mean, that's at least my experience anyway. And in terms of what we do is we have like with the lower grades, we have a thing called tools, a book on tools. And so we just start in with that. They will know what to do with those tools. So we don't have to go into that so much. It's laying the tools out, and they'll know what to, and they'll start to make the association and start to feel empowered, because gosh, I feel calmer when I breathe, and gosh, maybe that'll help me when I'm fighting with my brother.
And it's about asking them, not telling them.
Right.
We don't tell them when to use these tools. We inquire and have a conversation. It becomes a dialogue, an exploration. When can you imagine using this tool, or who used what tool this week, and tell us about how it worked. And then they discover where it works. You know, it works when they're going to sleep, putting themselves to sleep at night, or it works because they're a little stressed about a test, or it works because they just want to feel better.
And if you're reading about Martin Luther King and his big words, well, there he is. He's using the words tool. He's using empathy. He's using, or Rosa Parks or Gandhi. I mean, there's many examples in our literature that just tell the story.
Every professional athlete uses these tools to be their best self on the playing field.
Yeah. So it really naturally moves in pretty quickly. If you wear this around, they'll just want to know, hey, what is that? And just take it off. What do you think? Start asking. They'll ask you, what's that? That's interesting. Personal space. Oh, wow, that's a tool, huh? Then it just happens that way. I know that maybe that sounds simplistic, but it really does. It's kind of, they have a curiosity, and they already know a lot more than we think that they know. We think sometimes it has to be top down. I need to be telling them and organizing them and all that. But it's a real paradigm shift in that, a real paradigm shift. I found later...
Mark, we're out of time, so we'll want to bring it to a close.
But thank you for the question. I hope we answered it. But.
Thank you for being here today.
And we can stick around a little bit.
We'll stick around if you have questions.
Yeah.
Invite you to just consider how this could help yourselves or the work that you do.
Oh, I wish I had more time to answer that question, because it's a really good question.
And please do go on our website, and also there's a sign-in sheet at the back. If you want to be on our mailing list, you can hear about what our offerings are.
Yeah. Yeah, and I apologize if I didn't. I don't feel like I answered that very well. So.
No, I think you did. You
okay.
Let it happen organically sometimes, or within the context
of the literature and the curriculum itself. It's not so much organic. It's really, there's an intentionality around that assumption about what they can do with these tools, and so I didn't feel like I answered that very well. So. With the time. So thank you guys. Yeah, see you on the trail. You're welcome. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.